When you keep one-upping yourself in the badness department, it can sometimes be weird to look back and see what used to be the bottom of the barrel. At one time, Foxy Lady was considered one of Family Guy's worst episodes. Now, I'm not sure viewers would even put it in the bottom 20. Is this thing still terrible now that we know just how low Family Guy's creators will sink? Only one way to find out, I guess. The episode begins with Peter and friends comparing driver license photos where we discover Quagmire is in his 60s, making me think it's a direct take that to Ned Flanders' clean living mantra. Won't be the first shot at another Fox production here. And just like that, they immediately start drooling over the new female anchor on the Fox News channel. Okay, I do have to give credit where it's due because it took some balls for Seth and company to go after Fox News like this. Usually you need Simpsons clout to attack something from the Fox empire while being on a Fox network. I guess this was the point where Seth realized he had Rupert by the short hairs. But yeah, it's ultimately how he goes about doing this where this episode fails. Oh, and we then get a hole in the head joke that's gonna put me off my meals for the rest of the week. Thanks heaps for that! Anyway, when the anchor announces that the channel is going high def, this is what drives Peter to finally get a huge HD TV, while we get bad jokes about war veterans and Ellen DeGeneres. Smooth. But that's when they find out that Hot News Anchor actually looks terrible in HD, because that's how HD works in completely removing the effects of makeup.
We interrupt this report to inform you Rhonda Latimer has been relocated to Guantanamo Bay.
Not funny, it's not funny, it's not funny, it's not funny, it's not funny!
So with Fox News searching for a new anchor, Meg suggests that Lois audition. And of course, this offends Brian's sensibilities.
Why not? Because they're evil, and they distort the truth, and they do the bidding of the Republican Party.
Subtlety! Lois auditions, and despite her not even dressing professionally for the audition, she lands a job as their new on-air reporter. Even though they were looking for an anchor, which is not the same position. Yeah, it's possible the network promoted a reporter to the vacant anchor position, and thus were looking for a replacement reporter, because that is how the journalism ladder works, but forgive me for assuming Seth wouldn't think that much through. And then we get a rehash of the old Peter running and stumbling at the end gag, only here Lois clutches her boob instead of her knee. Classy. More whining from Brian about Lois going to work for Fox, and then we get this side story where Peter wants to use Lois's clout at Fox to create a cartoon show for the network.
One day, 3 ducks were crossing a road, going to get some soda. But they weren't looking where they were going, and a bus came along and hit them all. Now they're handicapped and... no, that's pretty much it. Handy quacks.
I am almost certain Mr. Enter has reviewed this at some point. Lois's first big assignment is to do an investigative expose on Michael Moore, who for the record I am not related to. She stakes out Moore's home and discovers Rush Limbaugh coming out of it.
Michael Moore is gay with Rush Limbaugh.
Yeah, I'll get to that later. Of course, the network heads won't allow Lois's big scoop to air because it would smear their beloved Limbaugh. This, of course, drives Brian to say Lois should somehow air the story anyway. How is she going to do that when she doesn't have influence on what actually gets put on the air? We have no time to talk about that. We need more preachiness.
But you didn't want me to do the story when it was gonna embarrass Michael Moore, but you want me to do the story if it's gonna embarrass Rush Limbaugh?
And we're supposed to accept that this is okay because Brian at least admits he's biased. I really don't want to steal gags from another reviewer, especially one I really like and respect, but pointing out your hypocrisy does not make it go away! Oh, and they try to hide this by interrupting it with Stewie imagining Limbaugh and more boinking. The Family Guy creators do know this show normally airs on evenings after people have eaten, right? What makes this whole thing worse is that this is all the result of something that could have been the subject of the episode and been a much better message. Lois is no less guilty of the exact same thing that not just Fox News, but MSNBC, CNN, and all the other major Christian news outlets are guilty of. Sensationalism. I mean, she jumped to the conclusion that Rush Limbaugh is having a gay affair with Michael Moore just from seeing him leave Moore's home. And she expected her network to air this claim with no hard evidence to prove it or seeking out alternate sources. So in reality, Fox was in the right to not air the story, just not for why they claim to not do it. Yeah, the news organization is really acting responsible and ethical here. They had a good reason for their decision, but the show ignores that and instead slaps on a bullcrap different reason just to try and make it look like they're in the wrong. This is one of the most muddled, ass-backwards Aesops in the history of television. And considering some of the ass-backwards morals I've seen from watching cartoons in the 80s, that's saying something. To her credit, Lois then does go back to Moore's house to get more evidence, which is why she and Brian jump in through the window when they think they have the goods, because of course being a reporter gives you the right to break into someone else's home to discover...
Who are you?
What's that suit on the bed?
I am Rush Limbaugh. That's a costume.
Wait a minute, you mean all these years Rush Limbaugh has just been Michael Moore in disguise?
But it turns out Michael Moore is actually...
Fred Savage?
Wait a minute, you're Rush Limbaugh and Michael Moore?
Well, after the Wonder Years, I was hungry to do more acting, but the pickings were slim. So I came up with this scheme to satisfy my need to perform, and I guess it got a little out of hand.
Man, I know that in retrospect, The Wizard wasn't that great of a movie, but damn, I didn't know it killed his career that much. But in all honesty, I actually really love this climax. It's the exact type of lunacy that Family Guy used to be really good at. And heck, for a show infamous for making celebrities look terrible, it's kind of refreshing that they portray one as a good guy who's just doing what he can to continue doing what he loves. Maybe Seth thought that Working was an underrated show that shouldn't have been canceled too soon. But it gets ruined in the falling action, where again, they could have talked about not jumping to conclusions and spoken out against sensationalism, but instead they do an absolutely stupid finale where they flat out admit the writers couldn't think of a way to end the damn thing.
Does anyone really care?
Yeah, you're right. The story's over. Everything will be back to normal next week, so yeah, who gives a damn? Anybody got any more jokes? Stewie? Anything funny? No? Brian? Meg? Chris? No? All right. See you, folks.
Boo! So yeah, this probably isn't close to the worst episode of Family Guy anymore, but it still may be one of the worst in terms of its structure. It's bad enough that the whole purpose was just to ridicule an organization that the show's creator clearly has issues with, but they can't even do it right because the protagonists act even worse and leave open the possibility for a better episode that they don't deliver on. Hopefully they at least found a way to make a preachy episode better in the future.
And what kind of god would put you in a house where no one respects or cares about you, not even enough to get you a damn mumps shot?
Gah!